We've got tips and recipes for healthy living. So for fun and inspiration, come and join us in the raw food world.
Any other questions?
Can you talk a bit more about the protein or animal protein and when it's cooked not being in the right form? What do you mean by that?
Sure. Okay, so for the body to assimilate, now I'm not like 100% clear on this, I'm not a scientist, but this is from what I remember. Okay, for protein, we want amino acids to be broken down into a certain level. And when you have animal protein, it's not necessarily broken down to that. I actually have a book that I could show you that talks about all the science behind all this. When you drink like vegetable juice, or you eat pine pollen powder, or you have things with like high amino acid content, this is like in its simplest form. Animal protein is not in its simplest form. So I'm stating this as fact because it's fact to me. Man is not meant to eat animal protein. And it's not broken down into its simplest form. Like these other things are, and what we're supposed to be eating, like nuts and seeds and pollens and stuff like that, it's broken down and the body just assimilates it like that. Now, Norman Walker's book, Dr. Norman Walker, who lived to be about 100 years old on a very healthy diet, he states that when you eat animal protein, you have to break it down into the amino acids in that process, and then a lot of toxicity is created during that time, in that process, inside the body. And then you can get it broken down and get a smaller amount. Now, again, from a scientific standpoint, I'm not discouraging anybody from eating animal protein because it's a lot less damaging compared to my mom eats animal protein and I commend her for it, and she eliminates refined sugars and processed starches. But I don't know, I hope that kind of helped a little bit.
What would you say to those who would argue that animal protein has the proper ratio of the specific amino acids we need to build tissue or to build muscles, whereas plants don't have that ratio, and the second that protein's being produced in our body, if we're missing an amino acid, it stops. So how would you, with a raw diet, be able to ensure that you have all of those amino acids in the proper ratio
Okay.
that our body needs?
The truth is, I don't know, like ratios or anything like that. I don't really look into that. And I admit I'm a skinny guy, but I've got really healthy tissue. Like, it's crazy.
So it's more quality over quantity type of thing?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not like, I'm a raw foodist and I have muscle. So it's like, how did that happen? Like, it's just simply from doing some push-ups and stuff. It's, yeah, so I don't eat animal protein. And I'm not trying to say I've got big muscles or anything. I've got healthy, I'm like, it's more.
Healthy muscles.
Yeah. I think it's, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say there are plant foods that have complete proteins, if that's kind of what you're, the complete
but
amino
not
acid
ratio. That's where a lot of people will argue plant over animal protein sources, because they do have every amino acid available, however you don't have them in the ratio that human bodies need it. So a lot of people's arguments, and I'm curious to know your standpoint because I hear both arguments all the time, but the argument is generally that, again, we're closer to animals in our physiology, so they actually have everything in the raw ratio that we would be needing in ours. So that's where I'm curious, because protein, even if you have the amino acid, if you don't have it in the quantity that you need it, it stops being produced from what we study. And I mean,
Yeah, but most of the higher primates are all vegetarians, pretty much. Right?
Well, most animals on the planet, except for the cats, they're vegetarian. And I would say
Not
basically,
most.
Not most.
like if you
Well,
would argue
fish
that,
are not, cats are not, dogs aren't herbivores.
but if you look at the
carnivores.
monkey, which we're always often compared, they're carnivores. So I mean, it's
Well, the great apes are not. They're herbivores.
I think
Great apes.
great apes maybe.
Orangutans. The really big animals
Okay, but
are.
chimps and
Sure,
those,
so
yeah.
they're omnivores, they're certainly not carnivores.
Well, yeah, no, okay,
But
I did
I
say that
think-
properly.
the argument for the human body, and I'm sure Matt will agree with this, is we don't really have the dentition to be eating. If you look at a cat or a dog, which is, you know, they're carnivores, we don't have the dentition, and we also don't have the digestive tract. A cat has a straight elimination. The large intestine of a cat or a dog or a carnivore is straight. I mean, it goes from here out, done. And we don't. Ours is turned. And if you observe the, the great apes, theirs is also turned.
Don't they like insects or
Quite
something?
interesting.
Like that's or you're saying they like take animals and eat animals.
No, they don't.
Yeah,
Monkeys don't do that.
chimps do. Chimps
Very
eat
rare.
monkeys.
I
No,
don't
but I
think
mean
so.
Jane Goodall did the whole thing. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
in
Monkeys,
certain
I
rare
think there's
cases
very
when they
few
fight with each other,
carnivores
they'll
on
actually
this
eat it, but it's
planet.
like
I don't.
very little.
But I mean, the fact that it happens, you know what I mean? It's
Well, it happens.
I was
but
told that it was
it's a
part of
stable
Maybe
Yeah.
they're
diet.
fed that in zoos. That's
no,
No,
so
no,
no.
in
They'll
the
do it in the
wild.
wild, but only in really rare circumstances. It's usually a dominance issue. If one group of monkeys fight the other and they kill a few, they may eat it as possibly because of showing superiority, but they don't eat.
They're not
They're
carnivorous.
not carnivorous at all. They're quite. I'd say they're
What are carnivorous animals? Fish are carnivorous.
dogs and cats.
Dogs and cats, that's about it. You know, all the felines, and they are 100%, about 90%. You don't see lions eating grass.
I mean, regardless, it doesn't necessarily.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter because you could eat it and be healthy.
I was just curious. I'm not. It's just
Okay.
I want to know.
If you
both
want to,
sides.
for me personally, okay, so my whole entire conception of my concepts that I talk about, for me, are completely legitimate and truth. And I'm about to bring another one in here and you might be like, oh, my concept is different from yours, so your philosophy on why this is happening is completely off, and that's okay also. Okay, so anything that we intake into our body taxes the body to some extent. And I'm just going to give you a breakdown. Depending on what you put in your body determines how much it taxes the body. And I'm just going to give you a list. Like, for example, heroin is more taxing than cocaine. Cocaine is more taxing than alcohol and cigarettes. Alcohol and cigarettes is more taxing to the body than coffee with the refined sugar and nasty sweetener in it. That's more taxing to the body than just refined sugar by itself. Refined sugar is more taxing to the body than agave nectar. Agave nectar is more taxing to the body than 3 apples. 3 apples is more taxing to the body than 1 apple. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, so now I want to establish something that I call cutoff points. Like, you could put a cutoff point, right, called the drug cutoff point. At that list I just said, if you eliminate all drugs above this thing, that you're drug free. That brings a certain amount of health to your body. Go down to a little bit further, another cutoff point, we'll call it stimulant alcohol cutoff point. Now you've eliminated coffee, alcohol, cigarettes. You're drug and alcohol free. That brings a certain level of health. In food, there's another cutoff point right in there, that the whole foods cutoff point, where that's like the biggest thing. If you can hit that cutoff point and eliminate everything above that, congratulations, you did it. Now, what happens is, as you go down these cutoff points, you begin to realize what's more toxic than other things. So, if you used to eat McDonald's all the time, and all of a sudden you decide to eat a whole foods diet, and you do this for 3 years, your body becomes very clean. You get rid of all this junk that you used to eat. And if you were to go back to eating McDonald's, you probably get sick. Now, some people can argue that you're sick because your body's not used to that anymore. No, it's because the truth is, because that's...
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again at the Raw Food World.